This is Cody Lee of blackcatbooks.org. Check out my books on blackcatbooks.org. So, things have changed a lot over the past 5 to 10 years regarding like the online gaming space and the online gaming sphere. We've seen a lot of like channels rise to new heights, but we've also seen a lot of decline of video game content on YouTube. The people who were around 10 years ago who are uploading regularly and talking about like all sorts of things aren't necessarily around anymore. I can name like a lot of people that I was watching, 10, 15 years ago who don't necessarily like make content anymore, but just as prevalent, even more prevalent, I would argue, are people who continue uploading YouTube content long after they completely lose interest in whatever it is they're talking about. I am, of course, talking about Pretendos. I am, of course, talking about like people like Mizzah, the BitBlock, Shokyo, like these people who constantly try and build a YouTube audience covering like a specific niche of video games, of covering like Nintendo content, and because of the lack of like exciting Nintendo announcements, because of the lack of like hype from Nintendo Directs, because of the lack of like ability to grift off of the Nintendo crowd, these people start to become more and more embittered towards Nintendo and their company. And I do think this is the main reason we continue to see the Pretendo phenomenon on YouTube, right? Nintendo channels that are allegedly big Nintendo fans who just constantly can't seem to like stop bitching about them for seemingly no reason. I think Mr. T's like E3 Nintendo Direct 2021 video was a really good example of this, where like Mr. T like did a live reaction covering the Nintendo Direct and could not stop bitching about the most innocuous things. Like, I'm not a Nintendo fan anymore, guys. I guess I'm not a Nintendo fan anymore, guys. He spent so much he spent so much of his time like anticipating the inevitable Metroid 5 that when he finally got it, he didn't give a shit about it anymore. That's kind of like that's kind of how I feel about it. Like, I think 5 years ago I would have been super angry at this. I probably would have made like a video like refuting every little point. But like now, now that I'm older, now that I have like a career, now that I'm like super successful in my thing, I feel it makes me feel sad. It really does. It's sad to see people try and put themselves out here, put themselves out there to cover a product they don't care about in attempt to generate views and revenue. That's all this is. It's not about like Nintendo. It's not about their like declining quality, because let's face it, there is no declining quality. It's about the grift. It's about making money. It's about finances. It's about their idea of like being successful on YouTube. Warped and twisted beyond recognition. Like, being successful on YouTube to them means more than like actually playing and enjoying video games, right? And that to me is like an attitude I think needs to be condemned more among the gaming community. Like, I don't like it when people like this come out and try and act as if there's some like great decline in Nintendo quality because they aren't able to continue like getting views for like their shitty reaction videos. No, like just get another fucking career. Like, just stop what you're doing. Like, I don't. If you truly didn't like Nintendo, you never would have fallen into like this fear to begin with. Like, but you need to like separate that aspect of yourself from like the whole like professional trying to make video editing thing. You need to stop is what I'm getting at. Like, Pretendos need to stop covering Nintendo content.